We're led to believe that the justice system is built to protect people.
What happens when it's your government that you need protection from?
You know what? We're about to find out. Today's guest says that he was wrongfully charged, publicly judged, and pushed into fearing for his own life just for existing. And this isn't about one man's story, but yes, that one man matters. And today we're going to hear his story, and it's about power. It's about fear. It's about corruption and a system that, rightfully so, many of us have come to no longer be able to trust. And whether you believe him or not, ask yourself this: if the government came after you today, tomorrow, next week, would you be able to prove your innocence? This is from Dirt We Grow. This is Stephanie Allen, and I welcome you to help me in welcoming Mr. Edward Alderetti to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. Mhm.
Absolutely. I am so sorry to hear that you are going through something that many Americans, so called, the land of the free, the home of the brave, all of this bullshit that they push on us. Actually, let's just hear who you are. Who are you?
Well, I'm 51 years old, and I'm a person that's living in constant fear of losing my liberty, my freedom again. I have a warrant for my arrest because I left a mental health diversion program, and I left that program because when you wake up at 6 in the morning, you're told to shower, and then you're given medication that has been issued to you by psychiatrists or doctors that have diagnosed you with something that you didn't even know you had. They said I have schizophrenia unspecified, and so and also depression, severe depression. They've diagnosed me with being ADHD, ADD. It depends on what doctor you speak to.
Before everything that the system made you to be today, who were
Mhm.
you before? Who were you?
I thought I was normal. I grew up on a street in my neighborhood where all the kids played ball in the street. I knew all my neighbors. There's a lot of kids in my block. I grew up in the '70s in a city called Azusa, and back then, now that I think about it, it was very culturally divided, and I didn't even understand what that meant until now. But who was I then? I wanted to become a professional baseball player. That was my
What
dream.
position?
Third base. I wanted to be
Okay.
a third baseman,
Okay.
and
I played a little softball.
yeah, I was very shy. I was very self conscious, made to feel that way. I think in the public schools that I went to, I was raised by my grandparents. My mom had to work. She had two sons,
Mm.
so I had a stepbrother, and so mom went off to work, and I stayed with grandparents. And my grandparents were very God fearing people. They took me to church. Like they would stop me from playing ball on Sunday. I'm like, why are you taking me to this building where I got to get on my knees and do things I don't understand? Right? Like
Mm.
I was raised Catholic, and it's a very interesting institution in itself, but I didn't understand it at all. And so I still have a conflict with God, but back then I was very sheltered by my grandparents, and they took care of me. And then one day it stopped because my mom was able to take care of us financially, so she moved us in to our own place. So, but now that I think about it, the family as a whole was not there. My father wasn't there. I'm sure that personally, I'm just going to be personal about it. I don't believe my mom could raise two boys without a man around. I think a man needs to be around with the mom, and a family should raise their children. And that's not what happened with me.
Let's jump forward to get a context of what happened to you. Why are you in the position that you're in now?
So in 1992, maybe, methamphetamine was a very powerful drug that was hitting the streets of our country. I was like 16 when I did my first experience with methamphetamine. I'll never forget it. And it made me somebody that I liked. I liked the person it made me. It made me very confident. And I was an overweight kid. So people would tease me. I
So
mean,
you
when
didn't
I
like
say
who you were before. The
No,
drugs,
no, I didn't
basically.
even
Okay.
understand. I didn't even
Oh, okay.
understand the concept of liking who I wasn't. But like, people are
Um,
mean. Like, I mean,
yeah,
people can, especially youngsters, if they're not taught correctly, very, very mean
and that's
people.
influential. That
Well,
shapes a child, a kid.
I found methamphetamine, and according to American law, it's a controlled substance. It's a highly felonious act to have a substance like that. And I didn't understand what that meant. I just understood don't get caught with it, right? But at that time there was actually, I like to say, troops of teenagers like me that would wander around the streets at night in our city, and that city was actually the training facility to spot people that were on meth. And so,
Are you speaking of cities in California?
yeah, they actually have cities where the police forces are funded to be like the training grounds to spot these things. And back then, um,
And this was the
when,
time of kind of the war on drugs kind of
mhm.
thing?
Oh yeah,
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 okay. Yeah, yeah. Right.
the war on drugs was highly in effect then. That
Yeah.
was uh, meth, methamphetamine, whatever that stuff was, has done its job and is continuing to do its job in destroying communities. But I also think, is it the drug that's destroying the community, or is it because the reason I say that is because they prescribe Adderall, which I then
Mhm.
transitioned to get off parole because it's an amphetamine, right? So it's a dextroamphetamine. It's not methamphetamine. The difference is something in the molecular structure of it, but that one's prescribed by a doctor, so that one's okay.
Right.
Meth is not okay.
Right.
Um, so what's the difference? A molecule is not okay. So, but that
Exactly.
is that is the factual evidence that I've learned.
As long as they're making money off of the drug,
Uh,
it is legal. As long as they're not, then it's just illegal.
but I've also heard stories where our country would smuggle in heroin. I'd have to say 1 out of 10 people that are going through the superior courts for criminal offenses in California, 9 out of 10 are taking plea bargains
It's
under
sickening. It's not just
un,
California, but yeah,
under
you're
yeah
right.
under duress. I've learned a lot about our legal system because of I've been in it so long. Ironically, I'm looking at a book that I have in front of me that I found in a home I was claiming adverse possession on, and it's
Mhm.
called Death and Taxes.
Mm.
I'm looking at
So
it,
the
and
only
this,
2 things that are for sure?
well, that's what they say. And this book was printed in
Yeah.
1941, so that's when we went into what, World War II. The concept of taxes, and it talked about in those times where the priests were putting unjust taxes on the people, and so it's not like it's nothing new. You're going to be taxed. It's just how you're going to be taxed is the key, and just don't do it.
File exempt.
Right? I said, who has the right? What human being has the right to say to another human being, "I'm going to tax you to live"? I mean, these are things that I've come to
Right.
question since I've been growing up.
That is the very God's honest truth. Guess what? Nobody owns any of this, right?
Mhm. Well, as
Who
far
owns
as I
it?
know,
Our
I
creator.
I
Our
came out of a
creator.
vagina just like you did, and as my mom's vagina wasn't more precious than yours, and so excuse my
Exactly.
language,
You're
is
absolutely right.
no one. That's another human being. That's not some godlike creature that says you will pay taxes to me now. Uh,
What are you charged with? Are you
okay,
charged? Are you
yeah.
convicted? Are you on what
Mhm.
is going on with you?
There's a legal doctrine in the United States called adverse possession. I've been fascinated by it for so long. I actually wrote a book about it, and it's on Amazon Prime.
Really?
And yeah, and you can look it up on there. Adverse Possession in California, and is written by Edward Alderetti. It's the whole process of how to do it from A all the way through Z. Each state has its own process of doing it. Some states, California is five
Of
years
of doing what?
uh, taking over abandoned properties, which is actually claiming possession to a property that does not belong to you legally. And so people say, "Well, you're a burglar." I said, "No."
Well, what is the law in California?
So adverse possession in California is you have to meet a criteria of five certain obligations. One is that you have to put improvements upon the land. Okay. You have to be there for 5 years, open notoriously in possession of the land, opposed to the actual owner, right? You have to pay taxes, and then, um, once those 5 years are up, you apply for title to the property. Not too many people have been successful by it because of what happens is, in this particular case, there's a trespass. What constitutes going onto someone else's property and claiming it as their own? Well, okay, first of all, there's land disputes all the time. This isn't the first time I've been charged in doing this. And the cases where I was uh, sent to prison for, it was because I was falsely accused by a perpetrator who said that they were the decedent. The property I found was, I was invited there. Once I got there, I said, man, this place is cool, right? But something's not right. Where's the owners, right? I said, and the people that
Invited there
invite,
by who, though?
I was invited there by my friend Cindy. Well, she says, come over, Eddie, check this place out. She knew able to acquire this place. And so,
Under this law.
right. I learned so much about this law because of what happened to me. I was charged I came home and there was a post alarm security sign in the front yard. And I said, I didn't put that there. Who the hell put that there? And so there was a woman who actually knew the person that owned the property when he was alive, and she was committing elder abuse on this man. She was taking advantage of this man for over 20 years.
How did you come to learn about that?
Because this same woman that took advantage of him lied to the police department and said that she was man's daughter. Okay, well, why are you guys the same age? How could that possibly be? And I have a record. So they popped up my record and they said, oh, fuck you. Yep, you're going to jail. And I said, for what? And they said, for residential burglary. I said, what do you mean residential burglary? I live here, dude. And they said, no, you don't. The woman was notified through the security company. The security company was hired by her. They never checked if she was the owner. They never checked if she had a deed to the property. And that's the only requirement for post alarm in California to take on a client is if you show them on the credit report somehow that you were associated with the property. You don't have to be the deed holder.
Did you
That
meet the
service.
5 criteria of the law that you speak of?
No, I didn't make the 5 years because the woman had me falsely arrested.
But don't you have to have the 5 years in to meet the criteria of the law, to
No,
be within the parameters of the law?
you have to have the 5 years in to apply for the title of the property.
Oh.
Yeah. In California, if you live at a residence for 14 consecutive days, you're automatically considered a tenant.
Oh.
That's why they call people squatters. And how are you going to get discovery evidence on a crime that was committed and you don't even start investigating it till, weeks, however
After the
long it's
fact?
right.
So
That's
in
why
all
so many.
honesty,
Mhm.
Edward, were
Yeah,
you within the parameters of the law that you are speaking of?
absolutely. The only thing I couldn't fulfill to get the title
Was
to
the
the
5
property,
years
yeah. So I was eventually evicted from the property. Get this.
by
So by the actual heir whom I met while I was working in the yard one day, because I went back to the property after they arrested me. I actually went back to the property and I was actually put on house arrest there. Yeah.
Wait, so you were
hmm
charged
hmm
and
I was.
then placed on house arrest
hmm
to the house that you were charged with
hmm
squatting or stealing
Charged with
or
burglarizing. I was charged with,
burglarizing,
yeah, they
but
charged me
they
with
sent you
residential.
back to the house that you were charged with burglarizing.
They released me, and that's where I was released to. I said, that's where I live. That's where I'm going back to. And that was the truth. That's where I lived. I got arrested again because this time when I got there was a different alarm sign in the front yard from a different company. And this was a week later. So the woman actually fired the first company that had me arrested. Well, they did a good job. So why would you fire them? Because you weren't telling the truth and you lied. And so you hired a new company, and the same thing happened to me again. I got arrested and charged with residential burglary. Or actually, it was trespassing. I was charged with trespassing that time. Basically, everybody in the
Impossible.
country, if you were to go by the laws, is
It's
guilty of
impossible.
something because just
Yeah.
thinking about it is a damn crime. And they make
Yes.
these movies called Minority Report where they had these
Yeah.
precog detectives that were sitting in this. These people were able to tell the future, so they knew before time. Oh, this guy's going to go kill this guy. We need to go arrest him. That's kind of the creepy, weird way our technology is going.
Yeah.
Like
How long ago was this?
this was in 2022. The amazing thing about that was I met an individual who believed my story, and they started researching it. And turns out Mr. Alderetti was right. The woman was not the man's daughter. The woman told the coroner that she was the niece of the person that passed away, and then she informed somebody else that she was his life partner for 20 years. Like so,
The
there's three different
niece
stories. Right? The niece, the daughter, and the life partner. So
was
yeah, so there's three different times I was arrested. There's three different
three
stories.
different stories.
Yeah, so it's still being played out in court after like almost 4 years. A lot of people look at me. I don't know what the hell they think. Actually, a lot of people have mixed feelings about adverse possession, but it's legal. It's the legal way to acquire property that's not yours. I found a property. I did my due diligence in discovering who the owner was. I asked all the questions I needed to. I talked to the neighbors, and after those are actually videos that are on my TikTok. The process I was doing, and
Instead of going after like houses
mm,
that are owned.
it's if I could take it back now, I wouldn't have done it. Right? If I knew what it was going to turn into, right? It's become something where now it's changed my whole life, right? And so because of my past, what I've done, I don't even get a benefit of the doubt. Like it's like, hey, look, now fuck, yeah, you're going to jail. You're going to jail, and
Well, that's my point. If
mm,
you have had not much success
mhm,
with your choices, with your approach to
right,
obtaining a house to live, why wouldn't you try to put that money into your own place?
yeah, because I believed that there was nobody going to come, and because there hadn't been nobody, I questioned the neighbors. I questioned the post office man that comes, and I made a bad decision. When I did one of my when I was in prison, I went to the Native American sweat lodge there,
What is that?
and that's a spiritual land within the prison that's been given to the Native Americans so they can do their spiritual ceremonies. And
Okay.
I connected with that because it made me feel a connection to our earth. It made me
Hmm.
feel that there was something more to just, how much money do you have? Like uh, money is money is something that has been created as a system of trade, right? Like before we would trade beans and whatever. You got something I want, and we'll trade for it.
Hmm.
Now it's been created because our currency is fiat, meaning it comes from
Hmm.
nothing. So
Hmm.
fiat currency is
Hmm.
created on paper, and I firmly believe that the only reason our currency is so valuable is because if you don't take it, we'll blow you off the face of the earth, or we'll take your government over, and we'll do those types of things because
But we're doing that
there's-
anyway.
yes. So when you have people that are benefiting from a certain lifestyle, they don't want to change it. Why would they? They don't want to lose that safety and security it's given to them from it.
All right. Well, after that, we had seen some technical difficulties. So that's where the show is going to end today. So I want to thank Edward for being here and also for my audience as well for being here and listening to this story. There's a lot of people out here that are struggling, and a little bit of help instead of punishment or fear or shunning would make the world a difference for some people. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week on From Dirt We Grow. Have a good one.